I think living between Paris and Hong Kong is a small point of reference for understanding who we are as people, and also understanding our origin as New Zealanders. It helps us see more clearly how the life and the landscapes that we grew up in shape our sensibilities.
So our new show here at Current Plans doesn't have a name yet. It's a 2-month-long residency culminating in a pretty comprehensive exhibition of works, some of which are new, some of which are existing, and some of which are collaborations with friends.
And being back in Hong Kong. So like we knew that coming back to where we started Batten and Kamp was going to be very inspiring for us just naturally. We were back to where we were most comfortable making, and this particular setting being the inspiration too. But we've never actually shown our work in a community space before. Like Current Plans exists to support the art community, more so than a commercial gallery.
I think there's more room for experimentation.
Yeah.
Because there's no major commercial incentive.
It's like the goal, the goals here are to like really bring people on board with our practice and how we work and what we find interesting, rather than to get collectors in to buy.
There's a big difference in terms of what's encouraged in our work from the audience in two places. Like the audience in Paris wants a very different thing than the audience in Hong Kong wants, at least from our experience.
Yes.
Paris wants excellence / sophistication, which means that the works we produce there, they're encouraged to be very refined. Whereas our experience is that in this part of the world, people are more interested in newness or innovation, or novelty would be the critical way to put it. But and that leaves a lot of space for experimentation.
And obviously we're like so lucky getting to do both. You know, I think there are times when you want to do something polished and sophisticated, and times when you want to just play. I would say it's changed almost not at all. Like, I think the way that we run, if we're being honest, like obviously in terms of success and publicity and all those sorts of things, it's changed. But the way that Dan and I work together is
essentially exactly
the same. Yeah. The dynamic between us, the way that we approach a new project or piece, like it hasn't changed, which I love actually. It's a nice thing to reflect on.
An interesting one for us, because I'd say as a couple that create together, we have kind of like quite an impenetrable kind of boundary around our practice. We collaborate with friends, but I would say generally speaking, we do keep to ourselves during the creative process.
Yeah.
We're even a bit shy about sharing what we're doing in the early stages, which would of course allow for influence from the community.
But I would say though that like in our practice, we're quite insular, but the creative community in our life is critical. Like, you know, like going to other people's shows, celebrating people that we love, like, and vice versa, you know, having people that we love come to our shows it fuels us personally as people. And of course, you know, like we've got people we love in the show, and we find their works hugely inspiring. I wouldn't say you see it reflected in our work, but I think in terms of
the way
feeling,
we live,
yeah,
as people,
so
very much influenced by us.
Yeah.
The openness, I would say, is what we miss the most about Hong Kong cultural scene. Hong Kong influences our practice materially more than anything.
Definitely.
The materials that are accessible here kind of defined our entire language, that being this mix of very industrial materials and natural bound materials. Paris is very open in the sense of there's a strong creative community there, and we've been very much welcomed into it. But there's an open-mindedness in this part of the world that I think is very freeing.
Also, we've loved in Paris how big the scene is there. That's been really fun. But there is something so nice about feeling like you really get to know your community, which I think we do in Hong Kong, where you go to an opening and it is one of your friends, and you can, like, it feels smaller in a really nice way. Like you can kind of look out for each other a bit more.
Perhaps we'll just keep making things in Hong Kong. All right.
That's true. That's true. Well, I mean, the biggest influence on our practice has been living and working in industrial spaces, which exists quite primarily in Hong Kong. It certainly doesn't exist in Paris, and not in New Zealand either.
Like our work is kind of post-industrial.
Yeah.
So that happens very naturally in a literally post-industrial space.
And even the fact that because Hong Kong's so dense, you know, our metal worker is jammed right next to a 7-Eleven with like residential apartments on top. There's something about everything sort of happening in a singular space that it's not sort of hidden away or divided out or like chopped off. Like in Paris, obviously, it's the center of Paris is really kept for a singular purpose. Yeah, whereas in Hong Kong, it feels mixed up in a nice way. I mean, in some ways, who are we to say? Of course, as expats in Hong Kong. I would say one thing I really noticed over the time we lived here was at the start, it felt like there was such a desire for international art. All of the big galleries were showing like British artists and American artists, and I really saw the change to showing and revering and highlighting local art, which was, it felt really significant. Like it really was quite noticeable, and that was so exciting and refreshing. And it felt like more and more galleries were championing. There we go. The local community in a very sincere way. That's what I found, anyway.
Agree. Can be a bit ugly when white people talk about what Hong Kong's missing.
100%. 100%. Yeah. But here I go.
I don't think we can speak to the art scene in general, but there's certainly no scene for, a very limited scene for this crossover of art and design.
Yeah.
How that evolves or how to encourage it, I'm not really sure, but there's definitely a gap there that I think more local artists could look to that gap as an interesting place, an interesting space for experimentation.
And like when you're emerging, the two things you need, to be completely honest, is a space to show your work and money to do it. You know, like it's uncomfortable to say it out loud, right? But that's how you can support, you know, like give people like this space, you know, give people a space to show their work that they might not otherwise have, and certainly in whatever way help the artist on their way.
I think living between Paris and Hong Kong gives us more points of reference for understanding who we are as people, and also understanding our own origin as New Zealanders. It helps us see more clearly how the life and the landscapes that we grew up in shaped our sensibility, because we can compare our sensibility to that of Hong Kongers and that of Europeans and recognize just how different it is. Of course, that sensibility that was born in New Zealand has been reshaped and refined, perhaps, by both Hong Kong and Paris. And now we're a bit of a mix of all of them. But in the end, like, I'll always be a country kid from New Zealand, and you'll always be whatever you are. What are you?
Someone who grew up in gardens, I guess.